What's up everyone, it's Derek with Euro Superbike Life back with another episode. Today we are disassembling my MV Agusta F3 800, this bike right here, so that we can install this right here. Welcome back everyone. So like I said, we're going to be installing a battery, a lithium ion battery, in my MV Agusta F3 800 today. I've never installed a battery in this particular bike before, or any MV before, so this is not exactly a how-to. This is more of a follow along and come along with me on my journey while we install a battery on this thing. Now, normally installing a battery into a motorcycle wouldn't be a big deal. It's typically remove the seat, remove a fairing, install the battery, and away you go. Or take out the old battery and replace it with your new battery, and away you go. However, this particular motorcycle is extremely compact, and there is a lot more involved with installing the battery. For example, you have to take off all of the body panels and the tank, with the exception of this upper fairing, in order to get to the battery, which is under the tank. Again, there is a lot involved in changing the battery in this bike. We're going to get started, but before we do that, if you are not familiar with the Scorpion Stinger brand of lithium ion batteries, be on the lookout for my next video. I've been using these batteries successfully for about 6 or 7 years now. I use them in all of my bikes, in my Track S1000RR, in my RSV4 bike, that's a street, as well as the Ducati 1199 that I recently sold, as well as over the years in my dirt bikes, which I've now gotten out of riding. I had batteries in my KTM 350 SXF as well, so I've had a lot of success with these batteries. So I'm going to do a review of this particular battery compared to the stock battery in my next video, so be on the lookout for that. However, let's get started on tearing this bike apart so we can install this battery in there. The first thing we want to do in disassembling all of this stuff, well, first let me say that if you're unfamiliar with the MV Agusta F3 800, let me tell you a little bit about the bike. This bike is super compact, so much so that the airbox is under the tank, which is not uncommon for sport bikes, but also the battery is under the tank as well. Now on my RSV4 factory, the battery sits right under the seat, as well as on the S1000RR. So you remove the seat, pull out the battery, old battery, put the next one in, and you're done in 5-10 minutes max. MV chose to design this bike super compact and use every inch of space. So the tank extends under the seat here. They do that because under here, while it looks like a big tank, it's not actually a big tank. They needed more space to hold fuel because the airbox and the battery is under here. So when we remove this, you'll see that there's a big concave area and there's not a whole lot of space to it. So the tank extends back here under the seat, which means the battery couldn't go in its normal position. So we have to remove the tank. In order to remove the tank, you have to remove the rear seat and the driver's seat, the two side fairings, as well as the two side rear fairings, and the two side fairings up front here. If you have a standard F3 675 or 800 like this one here, but you've installed or had purchased it with an aftermarket steering dampener installed, you can't actually remove the tank without first removing that steering damper. I have since removed mine. It's out being anodized right now, but we'll talk about how to remove that, get that out of your way so that you can actually get the tank off. Similarly, if you own a 675 RC or an 800 RC that comes with a factory Olin steering damper, you have the same problem. You cannot get to the two bolts that hold the tank up front because the steering dampener is in the way. So we'll cover how to remove that, get that out of the way so that you can get to these two bolts and remove the tank. But first what we're going to do is we're going to grab our key so that we can remove the rear seat. Now I have the key here in my pocket. You must say, why the hell do you need your key, your ignition key, to remove the driver's seat? Well, I'll tell you why. So first what we do is we come over here to the side. We put our key in here and turn it so that we can open up the rear section here. Now, under the seat is quite possibly, right here, is quite possibly the biggest Zeus fitting I have ever seen. That Zeus fitting holds the driver's seat in place. So if you're a big guy, I stand roughly 5'11", 195 on a good day, about 200 after Thanksgiving, which is where we are. You're going to have a hard time getting your hand in here to either remove this Zeus fitting or reinstall it. So if you have a small friend, girlfriend, whatever, that can get their tiny hands in here, you'll save yourself some busted knuckles and whatnot. But first thing we want to do is we want to remove that. So you basically open the rear seat, passenger seat compartment, grab your Zeus fitting, give it a turn, and this thing is still a pain in the ass. But you give it a turn and yank the thing out. And as you can see, like I said, this thing is monstrous compared to my other Zeus fittings that hold the side fairings on my BMW over there. But you remove that, and while we're in here, we're going to grab our 4mm T-handled Allen wrench, I guess you will, and remove these 4 bolts because this is open. So I'll set this down here, and we'll start removing these bolts. Okay, so now we put the seat down, and now we can lift up and remove the driver's seat. As you can see, the tank, like I said, extends down, and here's the tank here. And all this section is tank and actually holds fluid. So don't puncture this or anything, but this is normally where a battery would go on your sport bike. Unless you got a Ducati 1199, in which case it's over here on the side, left side here, behind the fairing. But there's no room over there either, so they decided to put it under this tank. So we have to remove all of this stuff here on the sides here so that we can get the tank off to be able to get to the battery. In order to do all that, we got to remove all the fairings. So we've done that. Like I said, we've removed these 2 bolts, or 4 bolts, excuse me, and now we'll take off the rest of the stuff. This tank bolt looks like it's about a 5mm Allen. All right, under the fairings here, under the rear section, looks like we have 4 screws. So 1, 2, 3, 4. All are 4mm Allen. So we'll start with removing this one. Right, and one more. This probably would be easy with a stubby ratchet and socket. So it looks like for this rear tail section here, it extends forward and some of it comes under this panel here, this finish panel. So we have to remove the finish panel on this side and the other side to get to the final screw that's under here. Basically, it's supposed to pop off from here and then slide forward. There are a couple of basically grommets. And then slide forward and off it comes. Now we have access to this screw here, and the same on the other side. We'll remove both of these and then we should be able to get the rest of the tail section off. Do the same on the other side. Okay. Let's see if anything else. Nope. Nope. Now this should slide back. One piece. Don't break it. All right. There's the tail section. Set that aside over here. So the tail section is off. We'll leave this piece on here. I don't think we need to remove that. And the passenger seat we can just set down there. So now we need to get the rest of this tank off. So let's see. It looks like we have we have 4 mils here, probably the same on the other side. And we can start talking about where your steering dampener would normally go, which is right here, so that we can get to these 2 screws sort of down in there that you sort of can't see. I've already removed them, so we'll talk about them. I'll go grab them, and we'll talk about how to get this off here now. Okay, so we're in close. We are going to remove, I don't think I need to, well, I don't know. I'm going to remove the 2 bottom here and leave the top one in. I don't think there's a need to take them all out, but we will see. I'm going to start with the 2 bottom on this side and the same on the other. Nope, look at that. Like I said, I guess I don't need to remove them. And I'm going to put the 2 screws back into place there, just so that we don't lose them or mix them up with anything else. Now I'll go and do the same thing on the other side. So we'll take these 2 brackets, set them aside, and now we'll talk about the steering dampener and 2 bolts that are up front on the top of the tank. Here we are at the top of the tank, or the front of the tank, by the triple tree. You guys will have to use your imagination, like I said, I've already removed my aftermarket steering dampener. But you can see, like I said, there are 2 bolts that go down there, and they're pretty long. Here they are. And these 2 bolts go down in here, and like everything else, it's a 4 mil Allen head bolt. And if you have the bracket here for your steering dampener, you can't actually get your tool down here to remove these bolts. So what do? So what you do is basically you loosen and remove the top triple clamp here. It's held on by 3 bolts. 1, 2, 3. You'll loosen those as loose as possible, and don't actually need to remove them. Just loosen them up. We'll lift this up, take it off. The bracket will come off with your the steering dampener bracket will come off with the triple tree, and then it will expose access to these bolts, and then you can remove them. As you see, I've already done that, so I'll loosen these up, take these off anyway, so that you guys can see how that works. So I've got a couple of tools here, guys. I have a stubby ratchet, a number 6 3/8 drive Allen head socket, and your standard 6 mil Allen wrench. So basically just want to loosen this up. And this one I've already loosened. All right. And you'll want to work this up. Take it off, and then under here, like I said, I've already removed these. This is the location where your steering dampener, aftermarket, factory Öhlins, whatever, would be mounted. There's no reason to take this off. Once this is off here, as you can see, you have access to these screws, and you can remove the 2 screws and go about your business. There's no need to remove the actual steering dampener bracket from here. Don't put yourself through that aggravation. Just pull this off. Remove these 2 screws. Like I said, they're fairly long, and now we should be able to get the tank out of the way. So before we move the tank, I've grabbed myself a couple of shop towels because past experience has told me I'm going to have to remove some connectors underneath, and we're going to lose some fuel. So I'll set these aside, and then we'll start to remove this thing and see what happens. But now that we got the tank up a little bit, there is the battery. And that's the puppy right there. We're going to get out. I might not actually, well, a couple of things. Number one, while I really trust my independent tech, I don't have to remove the side fairings in order to get this battery out. Not only that, I don't even have to take the tank off. So I'm going to grab something to prop this tank up, lift it up out of the way so I can use two hands to get to the battery. Okay guys, as you can see, I'm doing something a bit janky here. I don't recommend doing this, but I really don't want to have to reach up under there and disconnect all the fuel lines, electrical cables, and I do have some space here to remove the battery. So as you can see, I have my mallet that's holding up the rear end of the tank. I've already disconnected the cables on the stock battery, so I'm going to go ahead and pull that out, put the other one in, so I don't have to remove all the side fairings and everything else and go through that nonsense. I do not, I'm going to say this emphatically, I do not recommend you do this. So let's go and move this battery before my tank falls over on my head, or worse, on the floor. Alright, so now we're putting in the Scorpion battery. Okay. Now we can remove our mallet and set this back down there where it's supposed to go, at least temporarily. Okay, so it's time to get this thing, all the fairings back on the bike. So we're going to start by putting in the two bolts up here, get them started in the front of the tank, and then we'll handle the rest. I'm starting up front because I was told that getting these bolt holes lined up is a bit of a challenge, and as soon as I took them out, nothing lined up. So I get this lined up. Excuse me. Wrong size. These are 5s. Guess I can probably bring you guys in closer here. And these are super long. I don't know why they're so long. I didn't buy this bike obviously new from the dealer, so it's possible the previous owner or whomever works on his bike put these in here. I don't know. Guess now would be a good time to remove this center steering stem nut if I wanted to have it anodized or replaced. But we're not doing that. Alright. Front of the tank is on. Now we can put the triple trees back on. We'll tighten these back down. Again, I am not a torque Nazi. For this one, we actually have to get the reservoir out of the way. Hopefully, I did. I left this bolt a little loose. All right. Get the reservoir out of the way. Okay, we're snug. Now we can put the reservoir back. Grab our 4mm Allen key and snug it up. Okay. And now we can move to the back of the bike. All right, so now I'm going to put in our tank brackets. We'll start on this side, seeing I'm already over here. Remember, we put the screws back in their proper place so we don't mix them up with anything else. That's the left side. Move over here to the right. Alright, now we can move to putting the tail section fairings back on. Okay. So I'm going to start with putting this bolt in. I just loosely put that in, and now we'll do the others. Do this side over here. This one in. Okay, now that we have everything else installed, we want to install our rear tank bolt here, 5mm. I'm going to grab my 5mm T-handle and get this started. Okay, and now we can install the seat. So I'm going to grab the seat here, slide it into place. Going to make sure that the front is hooked on properly. So just like before, we want to grab our overly large Zeus fittings. And again, if you know someone with small hands, you might want to employ them right now. So we put that in there. All right, there we go. Zeus fitting in place. Put that down. And I think we are done. Well, that is it, guys, for this episode on Euro Superbike Life. My Scorpion Stinger lithium ion battery is installed in my MV Agusta F3 800. You guys saw how challenging that was, and we still cut corners. I mean, we didn't remove any of the side fairings, and we even got a little janky with the tank up on a rubber mallet of all things. Good Lord, what's wrong with me? But we got the battery installed. We cut some corners. We saved ourselves probably about 30-40 minutes, but nevertheless, all is good, all is well. Nothing bad happened, but don't recommend you do that. But anyway, if you found this video useful or helpful, please click like, subscribe. I am Derek. This was your Superbike Life. And until next time, thanks guys.